didn't realize that the audio wasn't working, but we are back now. We're getting started talking about what Advanced Productivity Pack is in general. In 2004, Third Wave released Crystal Wave for version 6.5 of Business One. Crystal Wave supplemented what SAP had at the time for printing and print design, which was the Print Layout Designer. If anybody's worked with it, it had a few shortcomings, and it definitely wasn't the best tool that was out there. So for the first time, Third Wave's Crystal Wave product provided seamless integration between SAP Business One and Crystal Reports. And then over the past 8 years or so, about every 4 to 6 months, new functionality was released into Crystal Wave as people asked for more functionality, and we just did some market research and added features such as exporting to PDF, integrating with email, integrating with fax services such as eFax, creating activities when reports are generated so that internally people can do audits of what was sent, when it was sent, who sent it. Right-click queries, which was a nice feature that for the first time took the queries, the powerful SAFe query that you could write in SAP and actually tied them together with easily with the data that's on the screen. Printing documents in groups, so if you needed to print 3 different reports from one document at the click of a button, you could do that. Advanced dunning functionality, like marketing functionality. It goes on and on. This isn't even a complete list of the functionality that was added. So as a result of that, in 2010, Crystal Wave was rebranded as the Advanced Productivity Pack because it really did so much more than integrate SAP with Crystal Reports. It was really working now towards making people more productive with their use of SAP Business One. And right now, there are over 500 SAP Business One customers that are using APP in 10 different countries. So it's definitely a well-received product that we've got out there in the market. And even still, the functionality keeps coming. So there's initially APP had special queries that allowed you to do more powerful searches and included some charting functionality, as well as dynamic dashboards that allow you to bring up different visual displays of the data in your system and actually drill into that data and get back to the original transactions in SAP that make up that data. And that's really nice functionality, and that's actually in the other session. There's another session that's being given on August 23rd, the Advanced Productivity Pack Charts and Dashboards. And if you're interested in that functionality, I highly recommend signing up for that one as well. There's also integrated menus, which now allow you to place menus for your reports anywhere in the SAP menu structure, and of course the customizer functionality, which we'll be going through today. What is Customizer? Essentially, Customizer it's a powerful. SAP by itself is powerful and flexible as a business management application. But you may argue that SAP has already provided the ability to customize Business One. They let you change form settings. You can rename field labels, add user-defined fields, add user-defined tables, create safe queries, alerts, approval procedures. There's a lot of functionality in SAP Business One alone that provides customization functionality. But over the past 8 or 9 years that I've been doing implementations, time and time again I've come across clients who are asking for a little bit more. They want to do a little bit more in terms of customizing the Business One application to make it more user-friendly or to make it more closely match the processes that they do at their company. So typically what we would do in an implementation cycle prior to APP is we would say, listen, we know the SAP product. We'll find out the best way to use SAP Business One to match what your company needs to do. And then in cases where it didn't match exactly standard straight vanilla, plain vanilla SAP, there's lots like the functionality I mentioned with the formatted searches and the queries. There's lots of customization features and adding user-defined fields that we were able to do that weren't really very labor-intensive. You could do it quickly. You can set up a user field. You can put up a lookup in it. And it really worked very well in most cases. And then for those situations that were very specific where people would say, you know what, I need to do more than that, or I don't like the way it behaves. I want it to act like this, and it's acting like that. If it was an absolute must-have functionality, then what we would do is we would lean on SAP Business One's SDK, Software Development Kit, which happens to be one of the best software development kits out there, and it's very powerful, and it lets you build anything that you want. So the issue became not a limitation of tools, but really of cost and time. Now, why was it costly to do the SDK modifications? Well, most of the time, the work that was being requested wasn't in the original implementation budget. So you needed to spec it out, you needed to go back and forth and find out exactly what functionality needed to be built, and then it had to be built. And it was usually at a budget, so it was an additional cost to what was originally anticipated. It's more costly to develop, but it's also more costly and time-consuming to upkeep. So 6 months down the road, as businesses change, as they always do, when the client comes back and says, okay, yep, we used to do it like this, but now we're doing it like that, we'd have to go back to the development team, present the change. They'd have to pull up the old code, make the modifications, put a new build out. The build would need to be installed on the server. Once it was installed on the server, it would do all the client installs. If there was any support required for that, then you had to deal with that problem. And it's not something that you want to go through on a regular basis. It adds cost, it adds time to the project. So step in APP Customizer. APP Customizer is now available as a third option prior to considering the software development kit modifications. And what APP Customizer does is it takes advantage of the same UI or user interface functionality that the software development kit does with a user-friendly front-end interface. So you no longer need a programmer to make a lot of the changes that we used to need a programmer to do. We can make them real time, so we can go into the system, make them right into the system, usually in a test database, but immediately you make the changes and you can see how they look. You can make adjustments. And then as the business requirements change over time, you can rapidly implement those changes using APP without having to redistribute builds of software development kit modifications. So I would say without a doubt, a client that relies on software development kit customizations is going to have a higher total cost of ownership than a client who uses APP Customizer. It's definitely going to lower your cost of ownership having APP Customizer in place. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about what we can do with APP. First, we'll cover some of the visual changes that we can make with APP. Actually, I'm sorry. There's going to be some APP Customizer basics. We'll talk about how to activate APP to start with, and then also some terminology that'll be helpful. Then we'll get into the visual aspects, how to change the screen design using APP Customizer. And then after that, we'll get into the more advanced area of making functional changes with APP. It's in this section that you'll learn how APP can help you integrate like a business process right into Business One that doesn't currently fit so well. Next, we'll go through some advanced project demonstrations. We're going to set up a pop-up alert that'll allow you to alert somebody and a certain situation comes up on a sales order. And then also a sales order validation that will let you set up a validation so that when you add the sales order, if a certain condition exists, it won't even let you save that sales order. This is something that I see all the time where people want to do validations and make sure that when people are entering data into their system, they're doing it properly. They're not making mistakes. So over the course of the next 2 hours or so, there's going to be a total of 10 demonstrations. And the way I've broken it up is I'm going to take about 6 different breaks for Q&A after a section is over. I'll review the questions on the side. So if you've got any questions that are out there, just post them on the side, and I'll kind of look through them at those break points and try to get some answers for you. Okay, so let's get started with, we'll also at the end discuss some additional project ideas so you can get some ideas of how to get started with this. Let's get started with the APP Customizer basics. This is the groundwork. So we want to understand how to activate APP Customizer and also some terms that we'll be using throughout the session. Okay, now in order to use APP Customizer, it actually has to be activated. There are different modules within the APP application now, and they can individually be turned on and off. So if you have APP Customizer available in your build, and the way that you could tell that is the version of APP that you're running. If you're running version APP that has 88.1.2 anything, it has Customizer in it. The latest version of APP is 88.1.2.248. That's the version that we'll be looking at today. And if you've got that version installed, then you can go into your administration menu under Setup and APP Setup, and in there you'll see a Module Manager option. Open that window up, and these are all the different components of APP, and all you need to do is check that Customizer box and hit Update. And the first time you do that, it will prompt you and it will tell you need to log off and log back on for Customizer functionality to be activated. So that's essentially all there is to it. It's pretty simple, but it's one of the steps that if you don't do it, you'll drive yourself crazy looking around trying to find out why none of the functionality is there. The next topic is understanding some terminology, specifically properties. Form and control properties are one of the terms that are used in APP and in programming. And you don't need to be a programmer to use APP, but it does help to know a couple of the terms so that when you see it on the screen, you know what they're referring to. Now, the dictionary defines a property as an attribute or something that defines or describes. And since the early 1990s, when object-oriented programming became the latest craze, computer programmers have used the term properties to define and describe visual components of what you see on the screen. So if you look at it this way, if you just took a pencil, a programmer would look at this pencil and they would come up with a few properties, and they would say, okay, yeah, the pencil has a color. Its color is yellow, a size, a lead color, and does it have an eraser or not? So those are like 4 potential properties that a programmer would look at and define if they were showing this on the screen. And then if they wanted to change the color of the pencil from yellow to blue, what a programmer would do to approach that, they would change the pencil color property from yellow to blue, and that would change the color of the pencil. Okay, so just an idea of how programmers look at the world of the screen and how they change the properties to change what you see. Now, forms, which are essentially the windows in SAP, also have properties. And this particular, so we're looking at the business partner master data form here. This form has properties such as form width, form height, and the caption, which is the text that appears at the top. So looking in SAP and using APP, we can find these form properties using the customizer functionality. Now, what you're going to find as we go through this course today is that all of the APP functionality essentially lies beneath the right-click menu. So if you open up the Business Partner Master Data window and you right-click on the form, you will see an option for APP Customizer. Under APP Customizer, click on Form Properties, and this window here appears, the Form Properties and Events. And on here, you can see that the width of this form is 649, and the height is 543, and the caption is Business Partner Master Data, so that refers to this up here. And you can actually, if you wanted to, you can come in here and you can change the caption and call it Business Partners and get rid of Master Data. And if you hit Apply and Close, it would update the caption on the top of your window. So it's as easy as that to change form properties in APP. But this really is just scratching on the surface of what we're going to get into today. In addition to form properties, there's also control properties. Now, controls are the components that sit on that form. So we've got text boxes, we've got drop-down lists, there's a couple of drill-down arrows and chart controls. There's a buttons at the bottom that you can't see. All of those are controls, and each of them have properties as well. So by simply right-clicking on any of the controls, going into the APP Customizer menu, you'll now see that instead of form properties, there's an option for control properties. So you select control properties, and it brings up the item properties window. And here, again, you'll see it's got some width of 143, a height of 14, It's got a position, how far it is from the left side of the screen and from the top of the screen. It also shows up here what form it sits on, because the form, the Business Partner Master Data Form, has an ID of 134. So that's where this control sits. And the control itself has an ID or a unique ID of 45. Just to point out what these things actually mean. Now, some of the other things you'll see on this window are the appearance. So if you wanted to change this control here or this field here to be bold, you can just check the bold box, or italic, you could check italic. Or you can uncheck the visible box, and that would make this control completely disappear. So at this point, you're already starting to see how you can control the way that the forms in SAP can be changed just using properties, control properties, and form properties. So just a quick review. What we've covered is just how to activate the APP Customizer functionality and how to understand what form and control properties are. And I'm just going to take a quick here. I don't see any questions, so it looks like we're in good shape to continue.